To make this edging, we'll use a crochet hook. You will get a medium tension if you use a crochet hook in the same millimeter size as the needles that you use to make the project. For example, this swatch is made on 10 millimeter needles, so I'm using 10 millimeter crochet hook to make the edging. We'll work from left side to the right side, so we attach the yarn at the left side of the edge that we want to improve. And we go from front to back into the space that is underneath the bind-off edge, the cast-on edge if we're going this way, or underneath two legs of the edge stitch if we're trying to improve the side of the project. So I'll go this way and insert the hook under the bind-off edge, like this. And then take the yarn. It could be yarn in the same color or contrasting color, it's up to you. Leave a small tail that is long enough to weave in. Make a fold and place this fold on the head of the crochet hook. Then twist the crochet hook so that it looks down and pull this yarn through the fabric, forming a loop like this. Now make a yarn over. That means wrapping the yarn around the crochet hook clockwise from back to the right and to the front, and pull this wrap through the stitch that's already sitting on the crochet hook like this. And then make another yarn over and pull it through to chain one stitch, and now we are ready to make the crab stitch edging. Insert the hook into the next space that is to the right from the previous stitch. So we're going to the right. When it comes to spacing, if you're working around a fabric worked in stockinette stitch, like I do, and you use the hook in the same millimeter size as the size of the needles that you used to make the project, you will get a nice tension if you go into every 1.5 stitch, so you skip 3 strands over here if you're working along the bind-off edge or cast-on edge, or if you skip 1 row, so you go into every second row on the side edge of the fabric. So in my case, I'm going to skip 3 strands and insert the hook from front to back into that spot. But that only works for stockinette stitch, and because all stitch patterns are different and we all have different knitting and crochet tension, it's always better to look at the edging itself. So stop after you make a few stitches and then take a look at the edging, see whether you like the tension or not. And with crochet you can easily take the crochet hook out of the stitch, pull the yarn, undoing a few stitches without doing any damage to the project and actually to the edging itself, because you can easily rework these few stitches, adjusting the tension. So I go front to back into the fabric and then twist the head of the hook so that it looks down and catches the yarn like this. And then you pull this yarn through the fabric, adding another stitch to the crochet hook. And you see we now have 2 stitches, and these stitches are crossed, they're twisted. We make another yarn over, going from back over the top and to the front of the crochet hook, and now we need to pull this yarn over through these 2 stitches. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because the stitches are crossed and pulling the yarn through these 2 stitches could be a little bit challenging. It helps to twist the fabric to the left like this, uncrossing the stitches, then twist the hook so that it looks down, and now you can easily, smoothly pull this wrap, the yarn wrap, through both stitches in one shot, like this. And that's pretty much it. So we go into the next space, front to back into the fabric, then get the yarn like this, pull it through the fabric, forming the crossed stitches, and then make a yarn over, twist the fabric a little bit to uncross the stitches, and pull this yarn through both stitches. And you keep doing that going stitch after stitch until you add a lovely edging to your project. This edging, if you look at it, you will see that it looks a little bit like a bumpy road, which is very cute, and it looks good on both sides of the work. So this is the right side and this is the wrong side. It doesn't look the same, but still it is very nice. And we can work this edging around the whole project. That's very helpful if you're making a blanket or a scarf and you want to improve the edges of your project. You can go around. And if you decide to do that, you start the edging a little bit away from the left corner of the project, and you do the same thing as we did right now to attach the yarn, and then work a few stitches until you get to the first corner, and then you work an extra stitch into this corner if you want to keep the corners sharp. You don't want them rounded, so work an extra stitch and then go along this edge. If you're working in stockinette with the fabric in stockinette stitch, then you skip one row and work into every other row, and then you get to the corner again, turn the corner by making an extra stitch and go on and on and on and on and on until you come back to the beginning of this round of the edging. And when that happens, and it's time to close the edging, to close this gap, insert the crochet hook into the space between the fabric and the first crab stitch. So I'm going in here, into that hole. And then grab the yarn the same way as we did when we worked the crab stitch, and pull this yarn wrap in one shot through the space in the fabric and the stitch that was on the crochet hook, like this. And then cut the yarn, mine is already cut, and pass this yarn tail through the last stitch, pull it tight and hide the tails. And then your project will have a lovely edging that looks nice and that hides whatever imperfections could be hidden there. To get the full tutorial about crab stitch edging, go to 10roseday.com/crab-stitch. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.